All right, mate. Call me Dan. Born and bred in Sydney. You know the drill, bit of this, bit of that, but mostly into the clothing business. I ain't no white-collar guy, but I'd be lying if I said I hadn't done well for myself. Started my journey 4 years back, in a shopping mall selling brands, Nike, Reebok, Puma, you name it. My store was always buzzing. A real hive of activity, heaps of people coming in and out, always left with a smile and a bag full of goodies. The shop was me heartbeat, me sanctuary, sort of like my second home. Worked me arse off, and it paid off, big time. I'm no bloke from Moneybags Lane, but I managed to earn enough to afford a cozy house near the harbor, beautiful view of the water, I tell ya. Here's the kicker, though, didn't have anyone to share me life with. Parents passed away when I was young, and no brothers or sisters to speak of. Bit lonely, isn't it? So you can imagine how chuffed I was when I met her. Gemma, she was called a real looker, mate. She'd come into the shop, all dolled up, and I'd be gobsmacked. No joke. She was from a typical Aussie family, not rich but got by. Didn't work much, sort of lived off her old man's credit card. Can't lie, she had a thing for the high life. But who am I to judge, eh? Gemma was a breath of fresh air. And I, like a silly duffer, fell head over heels for her. Spoiled, she was, living off her dad's hard-earned cash with no sweat off her brow. Her old man was a soft touch, gave her whatever she wanted, clothes, jewelry, the latest iPhone. She was always decked out in the flashiest gear, turning heads wherever she went. Never lifted a finger around the house. Just sashayed around town, buying this, ordering that, living the good life, no worries. I reckon her dad thought he was doing right by her. But all he did was raise a princess with a taste for the finer things and no idea of how the real world works. Fast forward 4 years, and we're hitched. No kids though. She wanted to stay young for a bit. Wasn't ready for the whole mum thing. I didn't mind, really, always figured we had time. After all, I was busy opening a new branch of my shop, wanted it to be a surprise for her, something to light up her eyes. Those were the days. Little did I know, life was gearing up to give me a real kick in the guts, leave me high and dry. Now, all I'm left with is a broken heart, a debt-ridden wife, and a seething rage that had put a bull to shame. All because of a bloody bodybuilder. So, there I was, sweating me guts out over the new store, barely saw home for weeks. Gemma, my Gemma, she was home, ordering takeout, watching Netflix, and supposedly missing me. Sounds typical, right? Nothing unusual for a hardworking bloke and his stay-at-home missus. But things were about to take a turn, and how? A couple of months into my surprise venture, I got a call from Darren, my assistant, bloke who was with me the day I bumped into Gemma. He'd spotted her at the mall, same one where we first met, only she wasn't shopping this time. She was sitting in the food court, sharing a laugh and a bite with some jacked-up bloke who looked like he'd just walked out of a Men's Health magazine cover. Darren, loyal as a cattle dog, sent me a sneaky pic from afar. My heart sank, but I had to see it for myself. So, I left the work midway and drove straight to the mall. There they were, her sparkling eyes mirroring his, her laugh echoing his, and her hand gently resting on his burly arm. A punch to the gut, mate, nothing less. His physique, that shredded muscular build, it was everything I wasn't, and I could tell she was smitten. Turns out, this bloke wasn't just some random guy. Nah, he was a personal trainer at the posh gym she frequented. This affair of the abs, as I've bitterly come to call it, didn't just pop up overnight. Talking to Darren and piecing together bits from the past, I figured out this had been going on for the past 5 years. Yes, you read it right, 5 bloody years. She'd been spinning this web of lies and deceit, all the while playing the dutiful wife at home. The bloke, Max was his name, was as much a part of this sordid affair as she was. A real Bonnie and Clyde, just without the cool bits. The sexual tension between them was palpable even from a distance. That twinkle in her eyes, that eager lean into their conversation, that soft touch on his arm, it was a language of desire, a sly dance of seduction that left me feeling cold and hollow. Did I confront them then and there? Nah, didn't see the point. I wasn't going to play the jilted husband, begging for answers. I wanted to understand, to comprehend this betrayal before I faced her. So I drove back to my new store, my dream project that was meant to be her surprise, with a broken heart and a raging storm in my mind. But little did she know, this wasn't going to break me. If anything, it was just stoking a fire that was about to burn everything to the ground. The game was on, and I was just getting started. Look, I ain't tight-fisted, but the amount of my dough Gemma splashed around at home would have made a high roller blush. Ordering from fancy restaurants every night, lounging on our plush sofa in silk PJs, watching endless hours of cable TV on the flat screen I'd gifted her. All while I was out there, hustling for every dollar, she was living it up in the lap of luxury that I provided. Didn't even bother to whip up a simple meal, just expected me to pick something up or have dinner out. She'd greet me with a kiss and a smile when I came home, make all the right noises of a loving wife. But there was no home-cooked meal waiting, no warm, cozy family moments over dinner. It was always just order something, love or grab a bite on your way home. At the time, I thought she just didn't fancy cooking. Now I know, she just didn't fancy the effort for me. As for my feelings, well, they were as stormy as a summer tempest. Anger, betrayal, shock, and a deep, deep sense of sadness. It was like a dull ache in me chest, gnawing at me every minute, every second. My life, once filled with a simple joy and contentment, was now a dark, endless tunnel of hurt and humiliation. But I wasn't one to just sit and sulk. So, I did what any desperate man would. I snooped, went through Gemma's social media, and bam, there he was, Max, the gym junkie, on her Instagram. A quick chat with a gym member confirmed my suspicions. Gemma and Max were not just gym buddies. They were together a lot. Hired a private investigator next, a bloke who knew his trade. Told him to keep an eye on them, tail him, gather whatever info he could. I didn't want to just lash out. I wanted to plan, strategize, be ready when I finally confronted her. I was neck deep in this mess, but I wasn't going down without a fight. It took some time, but I finally decided to face her, confront her about the betrayal. It wasn't pretty, mates, it was anything but that. The look on her face when I told her I knew, the lies that spilled out of her like water from a busted dam. It was heartbreaking, infuriating, but mostly it was freeing. I knew I was done with her lies, her deceit, and most importantly, done playing the fool. I remember that night well. I walked in, saw her sprawled on the couch, her eyes glued to the latest reality show. I just stood there for a moment, taking in the scene, letting the reality of the betrayal sink in. Then I told her, in a calm, measured voice, that I knew about her and Max. The surprise on her face quickly gave way to panic, and then a pathetic attempt at denial. I shut her down, told her I'd had enough, told her we were done. The mixture of anger and sadness was a heavy cocktail, but I drank it in and savored the burn. It was the fuel I needed. Now, mates, comes the part that'll make your eyes pop. You see, I had a plan. Not just any plan, mind you, but a cold, calculated scheme to serve a dish of cold revenge. I was no bloke to sit around and wallow in self-pity. I was a doer, and do I did. First, I used my connections and got the new store up and running, and in record time, too. The grand opening was a hit, a smashing success. And the cherry on top, I put it all under Gemma's name. She was chuffed, ecstatic. Little did she know what I was planning. Next, I got her to open a bank account, load it with money, and even had a mate at the bank convince her to take out a big loan for her new business. Told her it would help with the expansion. She bought it hook, line, and sinker. Took some maneuvering, some careful manipulation, but I managed to get myself off as the guarantor. I was free, and she was in the deep end. The final act of my plan was genius, if I may say so myself. I stripped the new store clean, left nothing in there but dust and memories. I sold the inventory, transferred the cash to my original store, and made it a legal entity with all assets and cash in its name. Now, I was just a salaried manager with no personal assets to my name. After everything was done and dusted, I told Gemma the truth, showed her the mountain of debt under her name. She cried, pleaded, but I was done. Tossed her out, filed for divorce, and watched as her world crumbled. Max, the bodybuilder, took a hike when he saw the mess he was in, leaving Gemma alone, penniless, and drowning in debt. She tried to fight, to salvage what was left of her life. But without funds, she was fighting a losing battle. I sat back, watched her struggle, and relished every second of it. After 4 months of waiting, her case was dismissed, her debts mounting, and me. I was in the clear. No, mates, I'm not proud of what I did, but I don't regret it either. I paid a hefty price, years of my life, my trust, my love. But in the end, I came out stronger. I won. There's no forgiveness in this tale, no room for pity. Just a bitter lesson learned, and a life rebuilt from the ashes. It's a hard, lonely road, but at least it's my road now. No more lies, no more deceit, just me, my business, and a future that's mine to shape. And as for Gemma, last I heard, she's still neck deep in debt, struggling to make ends meet. Not my problem anymore, mates. Not my problem at all.